Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hilltop Sports Report. It's been a while since our last episode. It was back in November when it was volleyball season. We had a little bit of a busy schedule in December, but we're good to be back here in January. Lots of episodes coming your way, and first up, we'll have the men's wrestling program featured on this episode with junior Scotty Scheidecker joining me on this episode of the podcast. My name is Jumpin' Jack Carlson, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's not waste any time. Let's hit the music and start the show.
Let's go Rams! Let's go Rams!
As I mentioned in my introduction, Scotty Scheidecker is my very special guest on this episode of the podcast. First of all, Scotty, thank you for taking the time today.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's an honor to be on the podcast.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you here, and it's even better to have wrestling here this weekend inside the Small Athletic and Wellness Center. Expecting upwards of 500 wrestlers, both on the men's and women's side, so it will be a crazy time here on the Hilltop this weekend. Talk about the team's expectations and excitement going into this weekend.
Well, we're really excited to actually be able to have the tournament this year. Last year it got canceled due to weather. We had the huge ice storm and everything last year, so we weren't able to have it. So I haven't even gotten to participate in it since my freshman year. And it's one of the hardest tournaments all year. You have most of the colleges coming from Iowa. You have a couple schools coming from surrounding states, and it's a really fun event, and it's going to be even more exciting this year with the women's edition.
Absolutely, and coming into this weekend, which will have all sorts of wrestling going on, the Rams are kind of hot. They've been wrestling well of late. Talk about what happened over the winter break, because you were on break academically, but athletically, the grind was still going on. So talk about, catch fans up to speed on what happened over winter break.
Yeah, so we got out on our block break on that Wednesday, and the wrestling team actually left for Nashville at like 3 o'clock that afternoon after a short practice, and we had to lay overnight in Missouri. Stopped at one of the freshmen, Gannon Kuhn's parents were kind enough to host us for a dinner, so we stayed the night there, had a practice the next morning, and then we continued on to Nashville where we had it was the Gator Boots duels. We had 2 dual teams wrestling there. The first team, they went 3-0, kind of destroyed everyone that they wrestled. In the dual team 2, they went 2-0. They kind of beat everyone pretty handily as well. So that was our first over winter break kind of activity. And then we got a week off. So we got from that Sunday the 22nd, and we had to report back on the 29th. And then we had a couple days of training, and then we had the Central Invitational, which was the weekend following we got back. Most of the guys wrestled in that. We did very well. We had I think 7 placers, if I'm remembering correctly, most of the lower weights, and then 2 at 174, I believe. And then the following weekend we had national duels, which is a huge event. It was a big deal because we didn't get invited to it my freshman year, but then sophomore year we got invited to it. So we've been trying to do our best there because it's just a huge tournament. There's D1, D2, and D3 all under the same roof at the UNI Dome. So we came out and we started wrestling really strong. We lost our first duel to Wabash College in Criteria, which is, so if you end a duel in ties, you can't end in a tie. Someone has to win. So the first tiebreaker point they go to is if there's any penalty points taken from either team. And then the next one is counting how many pins there are. So we didn't have any pins. They had 1 pin, so they ended up getting the extra point and taking the first duel. So that kind of, it didn't discourage us, but it was a hard blow because our goal was to get 8th or get on the podium for national duels this year, and that just eliminated that opportunity for us. But Coach Ham was really good about just, hey, on to the next one. We got to just do what we came here to do. It's not like we wrestled bad. It's just we needed to make a couple adjustments, and then we came out, wrestled Adrian next, beat them pretty handily. Moving into the next day, we had Milliken as our first duel. They're a very good team. Wrestled them, beat them, and then to close out for 17th place, we wrestled Central, who's, I think they were ranked 18th in the country, and we're ranked 24th, and we beat them. So that was pretty cool. It was a big win for the guys. We had Cale McLaren over that weekend. He got his 100th and 101st wins, so that was really cool being able to celebrate that with him. and Trayton Steffen both got ranked wins over guys that weekend, so it was just a very good weekend all around, and then now we're here just preparing for this upcoming tournament.
Absolutely, and you've mentioned a couple of the guys on this year's wrestling roster. I kind of want to dive into that with you right now. Let's go weight class by weight class if you're all good to do that.
Yeah.
Let's start with 125. What have you seen out of those guys this season?
So Jace, he's a junior. He's just solid. I mean, you can't expect much else but like his best from Jace, and it's really fun watching him wrestle. He's a little guy, but he can do some big man things. It's actually really he just knows how to wrestle. And then we have a freshman, Jason Stevens. He's really, really good. Challenges Jace constantly. Gannon Kuhn, he's out right now though. He broke his ankle actually in Nashville, which was unfortunate. That was the only only one of the losses out of 10 losses in the entire weekend at Nashville was because Gannon had the injury forfeit out because he broke his ankle in the first period. So that was really unfortunate. And then going on to 133, Eli Sneed. I mean, Eli's so much fun to watch wrestle. He just doesn't stop coming after you. It doesn't matter if he's losing, winning. He gets after guys, and it's a lot of fun to watch. He was actually, if anyone's seen him around campus recently, he's got a really bad black eye on his right side. He got that in his last match against Central. I guess he caught the guy's the back of his head to his face in the first period, and then wrestled the rest of the match, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. He ended up pulling out the window. It was a really gritty win. He got a takedown in the last period and just finished. It was really fun to watch. You got Gavin Kiger, freshman. Really fun watching him develop. Ethan Diaz just bumped up to 133, one of the most naturally gifted wrestlers I've ever seen. He's just got to figure out how to manage his weight. Dylan Heater's kind of been, I'm not sure if he's bumping up to 141 or if he's staying at 133. They utilized him at 141 at national duels, and he wrestled really well. He's really fun to watch wrestle. He just is another one that's just tenacious, gets after it all the time, and is constantly trying to get better. Him and Jason Stevens are roommates, and watching them go together in practice, it's just war. It's so much fun to watch. And then 141, we have another freshman who was the starter, and unfortunately, I was actually kind of responsible for him getting hurt during practice. We were just going live, and he was another one that he broke his ankle during practice. So that was earlier in the year, and he's been rehabbing like hell to try and get back, and he's expected back, I think, in February. So we're going to see, depending on how he's doing and if he can make the regional push or not. And then you have Elliot Cooney. He's a junior, solid guy. Love him. He wasn't able to wrestle freshman year because of a heart condition. It's just really nice seeing him being able to wrestle. Christian Diaz, one of my best friends. Love getting to see him compete, and it's just great watching all of them compete against each other too. Omar Samayoa, he's another freshman coming in. He's another fun one to watch because he's a big move guy. Same with Jacob Reddington, I like to say watching him is all or nothing. It's either he's going to put someone to their back or he might end up on his back, so you never know what you're going to get when you're watching Jacob wrestle. Then 149, you got Landon Card, battle-hardened veteran, the senior. Wrestling Landon is like, I always say it's like wrestling a buzzsaw. He just doesn't stop. He's kind of got a superpower. He's got a heart condition that allows him to get a little bit more blood flow than most people. It's not really a superpower. It is still a heart condition that he has to deal with some of the side effects of that, but he can just keep going and going and going. He's got an endless gas tank. Cooper Ludwig is another 149-pounder. So much fun to watch. He's just like country boy, just small, stocky, and strong. You feel like a grown man is grabbing you when you try and wrestle him. Christian Malloy, I think he actually might be going back down to 141, but he was a 49-pounder, kind of in that gray area like a few guys. He's been having shoulder issues. Really good wrestler. He's funky. He does some weird stuff to to counter and to get to score points, and that it's a lot of fun wrestling him and watching him wrestle. But he's been having he's got really bad shoulders. He's dislocated his shoulder. I can't even tell you how many times this year. I feel real bad, and he's trying to get that sorted out and so he can keep wrestling. 157, AJ Parrish. Right now he's starting. I'm at 157 as well. AJ and me kind of been going back and forth, battling for that spot. I had to get knee surgery at the beginning of the year. I tore my meniscus, so I was out for a while, and he won the inner squad over one other freshman, Bryson Kapansky, who's at 157. So right now AJ has the spot. Me and him may end up wrestling this weekend at the Cliff Keen tournament. We'll see, but he's another one, super solid. He was at 141 last year, so he bumped up a couple weight classes, put on a lot of weight, but he's a very good wrestler, super good on top, just a pest to wrestle, really, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to being able to wrestle with him, and it's a great strategy to have him at my weight because me and him just push each other to get better. It's great. Bryson Kapansky, the freshman at 157, he's really, really good. He's just got to develop a little bit more, and it's really cool seeing how far he's already come in his freshman year, and I'm excited to be able to watch him for another year. And then Gage Sweckard, he came down from 165 a little bit later into the season, but he's a sophomore, another really good wrestler. He's one of my favorite practice partners just because he's a really solid wrestler, and I'm excited to see how he's going to grow as well. 165 starter, Brian Petrie. I can't say enough about Brian Petrie. He's one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen. In my personal opinion, just well-rounded. He never stops wanting to just learn, get better. He eats, sleeps, and breathes wrestling, and it's amazing to have that kind of guy on the team just to not only keep all of us focused, but so that we can try and exemplify what he does best, because he really is just one of the heart and soul of our team, and I'm really glad that we have him in our squad. Same with Nolan Schutz, just a strong, gritty guy. He's been battling an ankle injury as well this year. I'm pretty sure he had a knee problem as well. Just never stops trying to better himself, just keeps going after it. 174, Dawson DeYoung and Jace Nelson Brown, they've been kind of battling for that 174 spot. Dawson Sr., just another hard-nosed guy. He never stops wrestling. Big throw guy. It's real fun watching him launch guys. Jace Nelson Brown, he's a freshman. He just got off of ACL surgery. He was recovering from. He only was cleared to start going live like the beginning of December, I want to say, and just seeing his progress from then has been incredible. I mean, the kid is naturally gifted at wrestling, and he just wants to be the best he possibly can be. I'm really excited to see how things turn out for him. And Logan Pausch. Logan Pausch last year was a 165 pounder like I was, and me and him kind of started off on the wrong foot, and seeing him come in every day and just putting his nose down and working and seeing how far he's come, I have a lot of respect for Logan Pausch for just how tenacious he is at getting better at wrestling and just being a part of this team. He's a huge part of this team. 184, got Kel McLaren. Kel McLaren's just another, he's one of the leaders on our team, 3-year starter, just great guy, great leader, outstanding wrestler. I mean, it's fun watching Kale wrestle. He's so calm constantly. Like, you don't see panic in him at all. Doesn't matter what state of the match it is, if it's a big match or if it's just another duel. He's just calm, cool, and collected, and he's just all business, and it's really fun to watch. I did forget someone at 174. We got Sway Hernandez from, he's a football player who joined the wrestling team as well this year. Great addition. We were a little weary of, because we don't have too many two-sport athletes in wrestling. Wrestling's like a 6-month-long season, so it's really hard to transition from one sport to another or just balance two sports in general. So we were eager to see how he was going to enter the fold, and he's done great. It's really cool seeing how committed he is to wrestling and how seamlessly he just kind of jumped into the fire. Same with one of the 84-pounders. That's why I remembered is Zion Shaw. He's a football player who Sway brought with him to join the wrestling team. He's from Iowa City, wrestled in high school, and just came out to see if he could do it. And they found it's tough. College wrestling is a whole different world than high school wrestling, but they've been solid and just keep getting after it. So really cool to see that. Austin Wilkins at 184, Austin's a solid wrestler. I mean, it's unfortunate that he's behind Kale because he's a regional national qualifier caliber wrestler. He's outstanding at wrestling, one of the strongest people I've ever had to wrestle in my entire life. He's got grip strength like no other. If he gets two hands on one of your arms, it's game over. So great wrestler. He also was battling, me and him actually had the same exact surgery at the beginning of the year. His was definitely a worse tear, but same kind of procedure to fix it. So he's been dealing with that all season, and it's been great seeing him back out on the mat. 197, we got Trayton Steffen, the 5th year. We affectionately call him Unk on the wrestling team. I've been told that I'll be given that title next year because I'll be the old guy on the team, but for now, I'm okay with Trayton having that title. That's our leader. What Trayton says basically goes, and everyone just kind of understands that. He's just been an outstanding leader. He's a great wrestler. To the untrained eye, if you don't know him, you might look at him and not think he's the greatest wrestler to some people's standards in the wrestling world. But contrary to that, he is an outstanding wrestler. You don't want him to get a hold of your foot. He will his favorite move is called a bow and arrow, and he forms the person into looking like a bow. It's not fun, and it's unfortunate for anyone who comes across his path. So we got a freshman, Jack Hyland, at 197. We got a lot of freshmen this year. It's really cool seeing how they've grown. We haven't lost anyone this year. Normally we have a couple who fall off throughout the year. It's kind of expected most of the time. This is the first year that I've been in college that we haven't had anyone quit the team, which is really cool to see. We got a bunch of hard guys, and that's awesome. That's what you want on the team. And then we got Landon Schemmel coming down from heavyweight last year to 197. He is one of the scariest human beings I've ever met. He's just 197 pounds of muscle, and it's scary when you see him get to work on the wrestling mat. I'm excited to see next year if he gets the opportunity to be the 97-pounder, what he can do. And then we get to heavyweight. We got Jackson Brinker, one of my best friends. Contrary to what heavyweight is normally considered, Jackson isn't your typical heavyweight. At least this year he's not. He started out at 197 freshman year, and then he gained a lot of weight last year. He was up to like 260, 265 at the beginning of the season. Lost some weight during the season, and then he started having back problems, and he wasn't able to lift a whole lot over this past summer. So he's been a light heavyweight this year, but he's still getting the job done. He's just electric to watch. It's so much fun watching him wrestle because it's just he's an imposing figure, but when he's standing next to people who are still 60 pounds heavier than him and he just throws them, it's like, oh my goodness. You got Quinn Wilcoxon, another senior. He's really fun to watch. He's one of the most athletic, almost 300-pound people I've ever seen. He can move much faster than you would expect him to. He can do a lot more than you would think that heavyweights can do, and it's really fun watching him wrestle. Noah Carl, that's my roommate, one of my best friends. he was not able to wrestle at all last year due to shoulder surgery. So being able to watch him wrestle this year and just get back out on the mat has been really cool for me as his roommate and just as a teammate. Being able to watch your teammate come back from an injury and actually still be able to wrestle is just a blessing.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for that comprehensive breakdown.
Yeah.
I asked for it, and I was able to get it, so congratulations to all those guys who have made so much progress throughout this season, and congrats to you, too, on making progress throughout this season. So talking about this weekend and the coaching staff as they have prepared you for it, what's kind of the message for the team from that coaching staff about this opportunity that's ahead of this team?
Same as every opportunity, it's another chance to showcase our skills, another chance to show what we can do, and just another chance to go out and get the job done. I mean, our coaches are pretty straightforward. They want us to just stick to the plan, do what you know what to do best, do what you've trained, trust your training, and good things will happen. If you just trust your training, you're gonna succeed. It might not happen the first, second, third time, but if you just continue at it, you will succeed. So just treating this as another opportunity to get better, to learn, to go out and just execute what we've practiced, because we know what we have to do. It's just about putting it into play. So just putting that on display for everyone to see.
Absolutely. And you spent your freshman year at the University of Iowa before transferring to Cornell College. Describe what Coach Brent Ham means to you as you joined the program a couple of years back, and what he has done to grow you as a person, but also as a wrestler.
Yeah, so I took a very unorthodox path to Cornell. I actually only wrestled 1 year in high school as well. I only wrestled my senior year just because I wrestled youth and I wanted to kind of close out my athletic career, so I thought with the sport I loved. And then I went to Iowa because my mom wanted me to go to school, and that's where a bunch of my friends were going, so I just kind of ended up there. Didn't really like the huge school aspect, and just I was never a big party person, and that's a lot of what happens at the University of Iowa. Sorry if that offends anyone, but just wasn't for me. So one of my best friends from high school, Nick DeMuno, was actually on the team here, and he just asked if I wanted to come out and wrestle a little bit. It's only like 20 minutes down the road, so came, hung out with him a couple times and wrestled around, and that's where I met Coach Ham, started talking to him. He asked if I was interested in wrestling in college. I never really thought about it, so I sent him a couple videos of me wrestling. He did his own research, as he likes to say. He didn't just kind of let me in. He still did a little background check, and he liked what he saw, I guess, or he saw something in me that I guess I didn't see in myself, and he gave me the chance. He told me if I could get accepted to Cornell that he would let me on the team, and then I trained with Coach McDonough. He has a youth club that runs out of Cornell Wrestling Room 3 days a week, so I would come and train there, help kind of coach a little bit, and so I could kind of get back into wrestling shape. And then once the team was out of season in March that year, I was able to kind of come and start training with them. So I committed to transferring to Cornell in like October of my freshman year at Iowa, so I didn't really get too far in at Iowa before wanting to come here. And as for Coach Ham that's my guy. I'll say to anyone, if I'd run through a brick wall for him. I'd do whatever if he says that's what I need to do, whether I like it or not, that's what I'm gonna do. He's been there a lot for me. That my first year and a half that I was at Cornell, I lived off campus and took care of my grandmother, and he was so supportive of that. He was extremely graceful with, like, if I had to leave a workout early or if I had to go and do something emergency like with my grandma. He's been huge. He was huge in just being in a support role for that, in support role in any given circumstance. Like my grandma recently passed away, and he's been a massive support figure in that. just my guy. I can't say enough good things about Coach Ham. I would do anything for him until I can't anymore. So.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that for you and your family, and just know that this Rams community is all with you and sending support to you and your family during this time. I'm very grateful for the time that you were able to spend with her, and also I'm sure she was very grateful for all your time and support that you were able to give her.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, so sorry to pivot off of that real quickly, but you mentioned Coach McDonough as one of those assistants on the staff. Coach Boston is very busy, but he also has his hands in both the men's and women's programs.
Yep.
Describe, if you could, up and down that coaching staff. It's a long coaching staff, assisting Coach Ham on the men's wrestling side, but describe, if you could, what those guys mean to you.
Yeah, again, sorry if I forget anyone. Same with if I forgot any of the guys on the team. I promise I'm not intentional. There's just a lot of us. So for the coaches, I mean, head dog is Coach Ham. Obviously, he is he's our leader. And then the head assistant coach is Coach Happel. He's a technical genius. I mean, and he's really cool. It's really cool having a group of coaches who are they're all relatively young, so they can put themselves in our shoes a lot easier than, say, if it was a coach who was much older. So they're very, very understanding of like our lives and what we're going through, as well as they all wrestled in college, so they know what they're putting us through. So Coach Ham himself wrestled here, so Coach Happel wrestled at the University of Iowa, so they know what they're doing. They use those skills that they learned to help us be the best that we can be. So Coach Boston, our strength coach, and he gets in on the mat with some of the heavier guys now a lot more than he did before, just because he's a full-time coach here, so he's able to be here a lot more than when he was just starting out as our strength coach. He was still working as a personal trainer in Cedar Rapids and whatnot, so it's great having him around. He's just an immense resource that we're the only team on campus that has him. Coach Lamb, who's a fantastic strength coach in itself, but he takes care of everyone else, so we kind of have our own personal strength coach, which is great. It helps that he wrestled in college too, so he kind of knows what we need exactly, so he just tries to capitalize on that. Coach McDonough, he's on the staff. He's not as present as he used to be, but that's just due to nature of life. He's got a young, growing family. He's got work, and he's got his youth club that he runs 3 days a week that it's always open for us to go to, so that we can go and help coach. We can go and train with them. So he's not as active in like our active practices as much as he would like to be, but he's still around for us to have access to him. And then we got a slew of assistant coaches. Coach Wiley Allen, Coach Casey Allen, they're brothers. Casey Allen graduated. He was a fifth year my freshman year. Great resource, great guy. He's another master technician. Just if you need help working on moves, or if you need to figure out you're stuck in a position, go to Casey. Wiley, he's the nutrition guy. He's one of my favorite coaches personally, just because his corner demeanor when he's coaching me he's very up, and I like that. I can hear him. He tells me exactly what I need to do, and he's just a great resource. We got Nick DeMuna, one of my best friends again, and it's just cool still having him around as a mentor role now, and seeing how he can bestow some of his. He's a little funkier of a wrestler, and bestowing that onto the next generation of 197 pounders. I'm trying to think if I got any. Coach Kreider, he wrestled at Luther. Gross, I know, but he's a great wrestler. He was an All-American, so I don't know. He was a finalist, I'm pretty sure. I believe he got second. So another great wrestling resource. He's kind of the other person I like to have in my corner, because he's the polar opposite of Wiley. He's very quiet, says the bare minimum, but just like keeps you level, keeps you grounded. So he's another great guy. Love him. Love when he's around. He doesn't wrestle too much, but anytime I can get him on the mat, I try and get him on the mat.
And the last thing I did want to ask about before we go away on this episode, and do appreciate your time on this episode of the podcast, is academic pursuits, majoring in kinesiology here on the Hilltop. So where do you think that will lead you in the future?
Yeah, so I actually started out as a business major. Was not for me. I'm dyslexic, so going into math and a lot of dense writing and reading for business classes was not for me personally. So I transitioned into kinesiology, and I honestly wasn't sure what I was going to do with it at the start. And two of my academic mentors here, Christy Johnson and Louis Caneva, Doc.
Those two are the greatest.
Yeah, they're the best. Christy kind of planted the seed of being a PE teacher in my mind, and then Louis kind of hammered it home, along with my two of my sisters are teachers as well, so they kind of goaded me into going down that path, which now I'm very happy that I am going down that path. So I'm a health and physical education major, so I'm going to be a PE teacher and hopefully a wrestling coach and a strength coach if I can be as well.
That's awesome, and shout out the kinesiology department here on the Hilltop, led by Justice Hollum at the top. But I mean, the entire department is there to help each and every one of their students, and Scotty is a prime example of that. So thank you so much for taking the time on this episode of the podcast. Best of luck this weekend and beyond here on your junior season of the Hilltop. We'll be following along here on the Hilltop Sports Report.
Awesome. I appreciate being on here. Thanks, man.
There's Scotty Scheidecker Jr. from Roselle, Illinois, joining me on this episode of the podcast. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube as to when the next episode of the podcast will drop. We'll also have updates on the Cornell Graham social media pages. We thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. My name is Jumpin' Jack Carlson, signing off, saying, I'll see you next time.